Welcome to Words for the Journey, words of faith, hope, and love for the journey of life. I'm joined again by my son Seth. We're talking about film and movies. We've talked a little bit in the previous episode about how Seth got interested in film and movies. I want to ask Seth, for you or for other people who are believers, Christian believers, is there something from the Christian faith that we can bring into our viewing of movies and film?
Mm-hmm. I think appreciating cinema as an art form offers us varied perspectives into life and into different philosophies on life. So I think it offers us unique perspectives that we're not always given within a Christian circle into the world. And so it allows us to better and more effectively perform our mission of being the light to the world and a salt to the world by understanding what's in the world.
So film allows us to understand
for sure,
the perspectives of others.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. As you think about film, and I know there's so much film out there.
Yeah.
I'm usually looking for kind of recommendations. Like, what are the great movies that would be recommended to me or to people who are watching? Do you have some recommendations of, let's say, I know there are many great movies, but like, what are on the top of your list? What are some of the great ones that you would recommend people to watch or at least consider watching?
I'm not always convinced that that's a great mindset to go into cinema with, because I think sometimes the great movies are often difficult to, they're not very accessible to. And so you have to start kind of at a lower spot and then work your way up. Like if you try to jump into cinema by watching Come and See, you're gonna be immediately thrown off. Or Satan Tango's got the same thing. You watch that movie and you're not gonna vibe with it very much. So a starting place is not the great movies. A cool starting place though is a really unique double feature of Stanley Kubrick's 1968's 2001: A Space Odyssey and Christopher Nolan's Interstellar from 2014. The two films were made about 50 years apart, but they're essentially calls and responses to one another. With a very similar premise and similar ideas, they offer unique perspectives on how humans and how societies and cultures see themselves in the future. Stanley Kubrick's perspective on the future is very positive, where at the time the US and the USSR are working together in the future to understand the mysteries of life, the universe, and everything. But in Interstellar, it's much more pessimistic, where in their future, everything is falling apart and the Earth is dying, and they need to leave out of necessity. So it offers very unique perspectives on two very different times in human history.
You're a well-educated man, Coop, and a trained pilot.
And an engineer.
The world doesn't need any more engineers. We didn't run out of planes and television sets. We ran out of food.
Dad, why did you name me after something that's bad?
No, we didn't.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law doesn't mean that something bad will happen. It means that whatever can happen will happen.
We must confront the reality that nothing in our solar system can help us.
Now you need to tell me what your plan is to save the world.
We're not meant to save the world. We're meant to leave it. And this is the mission we were trained for.
I've got kids, Professor.
Get out there and save them.
What will I do when you're coming back?
So Seth, that was really interesting. You've mentioned two movies. Is there one of them you want to pick up a bit more about? If I'm going to watch 2001 again or Interstellar again, are there two or three things you could help me with as I watch that movie just to understand the movie more?
For sure, yeah. 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of the best films ever made. It was a very unique and very revolutionary film when it was released. For one, it totally changed the game for visual effects. Stanley Kubrick worked with visual effects supervisor Douglas Trumbull to create revolutionary new technology using very analog tools. And so creating these visions of space and the stars and all these spacecrafts, technology that we picked up in Star Trek and in Star Wars and in later science fiction films inspired by them in turn. He started it all with 2001. He built these really unique sets that are basically giant spinning wheels in order to create the look of artificial gravity in space. And it's a technology that, of course, is picked up by Christopher Nolan, filmmaker I just mentioned in his film Inception. And so when he's doing the spinning hallway sequence in that movie, it's inspired by Kubrick's spinning sets from 2001. And just his politics about the future and his perspective on the future and on God, it was all very progressive and very unique ideas to those films.
Welcome to voice print identification. When you see the red light go on, would you please state in the following order your destination, your nationality, and your full name?
Moon, American, Floyd, Haywood R.
Thank you. You are cleared through voice print identification.
Thank you.
Quite frankly, we have had some very reliable intelligence reports that quite a serious epidemic has broken out into Clavis.
I know there have been some conflicting views held by some of you regarding the need for complete security.
Something apparently of an unknown origin.
However, I accept the need for absolute secrecy in this.
This is in fact what has happened.
I'm really not at liberty to discuss this.
We thought it might be the upper part of some buried structure, so we excavated out on all sides, but unfortunately we didn't find anything else.
It hasn't been covered up by natural erosion or other forces. It seems to have been deliberately buried.
4-million-year-old black monolith has remained completely inert, except for a single, very powerful radio emission.
3 weeks ago, the American spacecraft Discovery 1 left on its half-billion-mile voyage to Jupiter.
The sixth member of the Discovery crew was the HAL 9000 computer.
Everything is going extremely well.
One gets the sense that he is capable of emotional responses.
Well, hell, I'm dead if I can find anything wrong with it.
No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information.
Look, Dave, I can't put my finger on it, but I sense something strange about it.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
Do you know what happened?
I'm sorry, Dave. I don't have enough information.
Made radio contact with him yet?
The radio is still dead.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? You read me, Hal? Do you read me, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Is there a way that you can summarize what Kubrick is doing in 2001? If I were to watch the movie, what does he want me to experience? From, if I watch the whole thing and I come to the end, what should be my experience of the movie?
So Kubrick is speaking into a time of great political unrest as we are in the early Cold War. Right after the Cuban Missile Crisis, the USA and the USSR are at new heights of animosity with one another. So his vision is a vision of peace, where in the future, eventually, we're going to find the things that made us. For Christians, that's God. For Kubrick, it's kind of this vague idea of some higher power. But through finding peace with each other and then peace with God, we will be able to ascend to kind of our next state of humanity. We'll be able to be something better than what we are now.
All right. Well, that's interesting. Are there other movies? I mean, there are other movies Kubrick has done. Has he continued that theme in other movies? Has he kind of that vision of peace, or did it?
2001 is very unique for Kubrick because most of his films are very pessimistic.
Oh.
Paths of Glory is very depressing. Dr. Strangelove is very pessimistic. The Shining is very depressing. So it's very unique for him as a filmmaker.
And it was, I should know this, but it was made in what year again?
1968.
1968. What an interesting year. It was the year I was born. So I should maybe watch that movie again and just sort of see what was going on in 1968 that I wasn't aware of back then. Seth, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate the conversation
pleasure.
about
Nice
film
meeting
and
you.
movies. And thank you for joining us
Thank you.
for these words for the journey.